What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. We back with not just bikes. This was recommended to me. We got why Swiss trains are the best in Europe. I think this is the first time I get to see probably a little bit of Switzerland. If I'm not mistaken, Swiss is Switzerland. I may be wrong. I may not. I don't know. But definitely love the transportation system in Europe. Can't wait to experience it. But y'all hit that subscribe button. Send down those recommendations. Let's check it out.
This video is sponsored by CuriosityStream and Nebula, which is possibly the best bundle deal in video streaming, but more about that later. I live in the Netherlands, where we have some pretty good trains. There's a dense network that connects nearly all major towns and cities. The busiest train station, Utrecht Centraal, has over 1,000 train departures per day.
Wow.
And there are also high-speed trains to neighboring countries. For example, I can go to Paris in less than 3.5 hours. But as good as we have it here in the Netherlands, there's another country in Europe that does trains better. Much better, in fact.
Ooh.
Welcome to the Confederatio Helvetica, or as I like to call it, Switzerland.
Okay, I was right. At first, I ain't gonna lie, I was a little nervous because I was like, man, I hope I didn't get this wrong. Because I seen Swiss and thought of Switzerland. Then I was like, dang, what if it's like a the Tran brand or something like that?
Confederatio Helvetica, or as I like to call it, Switzerland. Famous for mountains, holy cheese,
Ooh.
chocolate, bendy knives, and time bracelets, and of course, trains. Lots and lots of trains. Now, I've been to Switzerland many times, and I've taken the train every time I've come because, of course I did. It's the most efficient way to get around.
Yeah.
But recently, I stayed a full week in Switzerland and took multiple trains per day to find out what makes these trains the best trains in Europe. One of the things that really sets the train system apart in Switzerland is just how extensive it is. Look at this map. There are train stations everywhere. There are towns, tiny towns, that have consistent, reliable train service every 30 minutes.
Look at those mountains.
In many other countries, they wouldn't even provide bus service to a place this small. Some of the smallest towns have request stop service, where you need to press this button to have the train stop, but there's still train service. And this train station that services only a single cafe, a ski lift, and a hiking trail has service every 30 minutes.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the city of Calgary in Canada, a city of 1.3 million people, has no intercity train service at all.
What? That looks
Zurich
beautiful.
also has about 1.3 million people, but almost 3,000 trains per day, with train times so frequent you don't even need to look at a schedule.
Dang.
So if you're taking the train here, you won't have to wait very long.
And I don't know if it worked like usually like the airport, like say for instance us, we don't have too many. Like when I see a train, I'll be like, especially in my town, I'll be like, I didn't know trains still run, especially in my town, because we have a lot of train tracks, but you hardly see a train. But I know how the airport worked for us. You know, you gotta buy your ticket online and all. Do you do the same with trains, with the train station, or do you just go up? You want to go somewhere, you just go up there and see what they got, or is it probably faster to book it online? You know what I'm saying? But me personally, I like the online service. You know, buy my ticket online, get that out the way and done with. You know, but I feel like with the trains, I'd be like, where I want to go today. Let me go ahead and book this ride.
So if you're taking the train here, you won't have to wait very long. Frequencies like this are the gold standard of public transportation, but this is really only feasible in more populated areas. So how do they provide such good train service to smaller towns and villages? Well, Switzerland is a relatively small country by land area, and some people may assume that's why the public transit can be so good, but these Wikipedia-level statistics can be very misleading.
Always.
Because by population, Swiss cities actually aren't that big. After Zurich, the next largest city, Geneva, has only about 600,000 people in the whole region. In fact, almost 50% of the entire population of Switzerland lives in small villages of less than 10,000 people.
Wow.
In a way, Switzerland is a sprawling country, but instead of car-dependent suburban sprawl like you'd see in North America, it's village sprawl. Yet the country still manages to cover this highly
Look at
dispersed.
those mountains. Like, I know we talking about trains, but
It's
look at that view. That's amazing. I know in like different movies and stuff, I would see trains like they have train tracks like on like the mountains type of stuff like that.
village sprawl. Yet the country still manages to cover this highly dispersed population with exceptional public transport. Switzerland uses what is called clock face scheduling. For example, a transit vehicle that comes every 30 minutes will always come at 15 minutes and 45 minutes after the hour, or 5 minutes and 35 minutes, or maybe it's 4 times per hour at 5, 20, 35, and 50 minutes past the hour, but regardless, it's consistent.
Yeah.
And it goes all day, so that regular users won't have to think too much about the schedule. This is actually pretty normal, and many countries schedule their public transit this way, including the Netherlands and Germany. But Switzerland takes this a step further by synchronizing their timetables across the entire country, a method called pulse timetabling or integrated timetables. Here's how it works. Train departure times at a train station are staggered, so that trains may be arriving every 30 minutes at, say, 15 minutes past the hour, and departing in a different direction at, say, 25 minutes past the hour. This way, most people arriving at the station will have at most 10 minutes to wait for their connecting train.
That's not too long.
Switzerland integrates these timetables throughout the entire network, across the entire country, to minimize connection durations as much as possible. Not Just Bike's viewer Jock Tur has written a great article about this that I'll link to in the description.
I have to check that
here's
out.
a quick summary for those of you who are allergic to reading. His analysis, done at 10 a.m. on a Friday, so outside of rush hour, shows that across the entire Swiss train network, the average wait time for a connection is 8.4 minutes, with 77% of all possible connections being 10 minutes or less.
That's not bad, because like even if you feel like you missed it, at least 8 minutes not long get off for the next train. Like that's not bad at all, because like he said, them things usually if they run every 30 minutes and that's pretty unique. That's pretty unique. Like I never rode on a train before. Of course, rode on a bus, no problem. But a train, that would be something to experience just because I never did it, always seen it, but never done it. But 8 minutes, I could wait 8 minutes for the next train. You know, I did a subway. I rode a subway. I don't think that counts as a train ride, but like on the subway, I feel like a subway in New York probably waiting longer than that, depending. It just depends on how busy it is.
That's astonishing. And it means that even a trip with multiple train connections is only marginally longer than a single direct train. Another benefit of integrated timetabling is that the Swiss can squeeze the most capacity possible out of their network. Switzerland is an incredibly mountainous country, and that means that building rail lines is extremely expensive. So there aren't a lot of individual rail lines, and a small number of routes need to be shared by a large number of rail services. This tight scheduling is the only way a route like this could operate with only a single track through the mountains. For example, while traveling through the south of Switzerland, our train occasionally needed to wait briefly for another train to clear the tunnel, which was only a single track.
I wonder how many trains do they have on each track, like per track? How many trains is it I guess per track? I guess that's how I would say how many trains per track on it, because like for them to be that spread it out and have that many trains, that's incredible. Like that's incredible scheduling and all that stuff, preparation, because you would think trains would get clogged up and be backed up or stuff like that, but I feel like that's another interesting thing right there, just the scheduling and how many trains per track.
Our train occasionally needed to wait briefly for another train to clear the tunnel, which was only a single track, but wait times were short and we always arrived on time. Of course, in order to pull this off, the trains need to arrive when they're supposed to arrive, and Swiss trains are famously punctual. The official statistic is that 91.9% of all trains arrive on time, but it's even better than it sounds. First of all, on time is defined as within 3 minutes of the scheduled arrival time. This is a much stricter definition than you'll find in many other countries. Here in the Netherlands, for example, the national carrier, Nederlandse Spoorwegen, considers a train to be on time if it's within 5 minutes
Oh,
of the scheduled arrival time. And where I used to live in the Greater Toronto area, Go Transit uses a 15-minute metric for on-time performance for a region that is a tiny fraction the size of Switzerland, but with a similar population.
see that 15, man. That's pretty much what they tell you even about your job. Like, get there on time, which is 15 minutes earlier. You know, if you early, you on time. If you on time, you're late, type of thing.
That is a tiny fraction the size of Switzerland, but with a similar population. And if you think that's bad, Via Rail in Canada says that 71% of their trains are on time, but they don't publish what metric they use. But anyway, what's really impressive about the Swiss train network is the connection punctuality. 98.9% of trains in Switzerland allow their passengers to make their connection,
That's
which
good.
is amazing. After all, arriving at home 5 minutes late one day isn't really a big deal, but just missing your connection to a train that only leaves every 30 minutes is much
Or
worse.
very.
But enough statistics and graphs. What is it actually like to take the train in Switzerland? Well, first of all, the trains are really nice. Every train I took was modern,
one
clean,
empty.
and comfortable. In the mountain regions, there are even trains with windows like this to enjoy the view. And you definitely want to
Oh
get a
my
good view when the
gosh.
landscape looks like this.
See, this is why I would want to ride a train, because I feel like, I mean, when you're flying, you don't see the beauty, the nature, you know, because you're so high up. But this
The
is
view.
worth the
And
look
you
right here.
definitely
This is
want to
worth.
get a good view when the landscape looks like this.
This is beautiful.
There are also tourist trains like the Glacier Express that are even better, but more about
Oh,
that
what
later.
people? Oh, people just right there.
But even the regular intercity trains are great. I want you to look at this scene for a moment. How freaking civilized
That
is
is
this?
very.
Can you seriously tell me you'd rather sit in traffic on a highway confined to your seat with a belt, constantly needing to pay attention, with no way to comfortably eat or even take a piss instead of this?
This is very.
I refuse to believe that there's any better way to travel than on a train like this one.
That's very convenient because he's right. If I'm driving, I don't mind driving, but I hate driving and being on the road for so long. Like when I had tournaments, like those 3 hour, 4 hour drives, whoo, that was a lot. And that was straight drives, no stops. Dude, you get up so sore, get up, need a stretch, and oh man, just so stiff. This is comfortable. I'll probably get out of the train refreshed.
I was also impressed at how many trains had level boarding and direct access to wheelchair areas and accessible restrooms.
That's a lot of room in there too.
It wasn't every car on every service, but it's clear that Switzerland is making a concerted effort to ensure that their network remains accessible to everyone. And every station I visited had ramps or elevators too.
Nice.
Though,
nice.
as I was filming my walk to my connecting train, I
Whoa.
wasn't expecting to see this guy take the escalator.
I ain't never seen that. My guy been there, done this before, cause I ain't never said he is by himself, but what in the world?
Expecting to see this guy take the escalator. Damn. Individual train trips in
Living life on
Switzerland
the
can be
edge.
quite expensive, but for residents, it's quite common to have half-price or regional travel cards loaded onto a Swiss Pass.
Nachos,
And
spikes.
some people are even provided an unlimited travel card by their employer. For most of the week, I traveled second class, and in every case, this was more than good enough.
Not bad.
But for the last 4 days, I bought a countrywide travel pass for first class, just to see the difference. Thank you, Patreon supporters. First class is an upgrade, but it's not significant and probably not worth the price unless the route you're taking is expected to be really busy. However, some of the trains have business zones like this one that are extremely comfortable, and I was able to get a few hours of work done while in transit too. There's a famous
very
quote by the
comfortable.
former mayor of Bogota. A developed country is not a place where the poor have cars. It's where the rich use public transportation. And that is absolutely the case in Switzerland.
Nice.
When I was traveling first class, I routinely saw well-dressed people and professionals like this who opened their laptop to debrief after a business meeting. I believe that having wealthy people take public transportation is important because, for better or for worse, These people are likely to have the power and political influence to demand efficient service.
That is true, because I mean, you come to the States, how you know somebody wealthy? They probably have a big house. They're driving a Porsche, Lamborghinis, and all that stuff. I'm sure, being in Europe, y'all probably run into famous people all the time, but it's like, oh, they go such and such, chill, relax type of thing. Unless it's like a major artist and you like, you just gotta touch them type of thing. But it's like, if I was a millionaire, I would still take public transportation, because why not?
These people are likely to have the power and political influence to demand efficient service. For planning your journey, the SBB app is fantastic.
I need to use that.
You choose your route and it shows you exactly how long it's going to take and where you need to change, with a list of every station in between. And it will even show you the layout of the station and the exact path between platforms. Changing trains
they took their time with it out.
Easier than this. Here is an example of a typical train trip, one of the many I took during my week in Switzerland. In any other country, I'd be worried about taking a trip with this many changes. But when you're likely to catch your connection, in 99% of cases, it's not a problem at all. Here, I look at my first connection. The app shows me where I need to stand on the platform for my train, as well as an estimate of how busy each carriage is. The app tells me exactly where I need to get off to change trains and which platform I'm going to. And I get a notification when we're getting close.
This app is very detailed. Wow. That's good. That helps out a whole lot, because I don't know if the airports work that way, but the train stations got their stuff together out there.
And I get a notification when we're getting close. Changing trains is trivial because I know exactly where I'm arriving and which platform I need to get to. This is an older train, but it's still clean and comfortable. My next train was running almost 3 minutes late, and the app warned me that the connection might not be possible. But of course, it was perfectly fine, and I got to my next train with plenty of time to spare. Even when the connection involved a transfer to a bus, it was waiting right outside, because the schedules are properly aligned even to a connecting bus service.
Nice.
So was all of my travel perfect in Switzerland? Well, no. I took about 24 trains while I was there, and I was lucky enough for the purpose of this video, to miss one of my connections.
Dang.
What was that like? Well, first, the train was late because of a delay in another country. Ooh, Switzerland throwing Italy under the bus. Train. But from what I've been told, many of the Swiss trains that are late because they're coming from another country.
That makes sense.
This was a pretty typical experience. So anyway, my train was late and I missed my connection. Now, there have been many times in my life where I've been driving between cities and I end up being half an hour late or an hour late or more because of unexpected car traffic.
It could be traffic. I know, usually in the major city, me being in Texas, and the closest major city is Dallas. When I get in Dallas, I ain't gonna lie, I kind of know a little bit more because I worked in Dallas. But once you get past Dallas and that's where it gets confusing, especially if you've never been or familiar with the area. And you can miss exit. Missing exit is probably the worst thing, because it will take you all the way to another side. Like, it'll loop you around or something. Like, it'll definitely add on probably 5 to 10 more minutes if you miss an exit, depending on where you're going.
And I end up being half an hour late or an hour late or more because of unexpected car traffic. This is just a normal part of travel, especially in places with no alternatives to driving. But being stuck in stop-and-go traffic like this sucks. It sucks a lot, and I hate it. When I missed my connection in Switzerland, I was in a tiny town of only 13,000 people. But while I waited, I was able to grab something to eat, and I stepped outside to enjoy the view.
It's nice.
When you drive in traffic, you don't really know how long it's going to be, and it's stressful and frustrating.
Very.
This delay was the exact polar opposite of that. In fact, it was a really enjoyable break. I just wonder how much better the world would be if people's travel delays were like this instead of
Come on now. Definitely don't want to be looking at the back of a ride. This will be perfect right there.
Travel delays were like this instead of like this.
That's the worst thing ever.
It just blows my mind that even a delayed train trip in Switzerland was better than almost any intercity driving trip I've ever done in the US or Canada. And can I just point out that this town of 13,000 people has regular train service, including international trains?
Wow.
But the best part about traveling in Switzerland was that whenever I got to my destination, no matter where it was always a short walk, tram trip, or gondola journey directly to where I
Gondola?
wanted
What
to
is
go.
a gondola?
Because every Swiss city, town, and village is designed properly to be mixed use and walkable.
Wow.
This was the very first time that I returned to the Netherlands after a trip abroad and didn't think to myself, oh, finally, back to civilization. It's easy to feel that way when coming back from a trip to North America because everything is just so terrible there by comparison. But returning from Switzerland was different. Everything just seemed a bit less polished.
Yeah.
Despite getting on a recently renovated train back to Amsterdam Zuid, it still seemed kind of rickety and noisy compared to the train I left in Zurich. And I almost missed my train because I forgot to tap my OV chip card before boarding.
Oh, damn.
It was only at this point that I realized I hadn't gone through a fare gate for a train the whole time I was gone.
Wow.
Which was really, really nice. Dutch cities are pretty great, and that's an understatement. And cycling is certainly better here than anywhere in Switzerland, and I talked about that in a previous video.
Oh, I'm going to have to check that out.
Said about a country that is so well set up with high quality, punctual, and efficient public transportation that makes traveling so easy. This carefree transportation felt like true freedom, more so than any car-dependent place I've ever been. Of course, one of the things they definitely don't have here in the Netherlands is mountains. So one of the highlights of my trip was taking the Glacier Express, a scenic train that takes you through some of the most beautiful views in the Swiss Alps.
Dang.
I made a whole other video about what it's like to take the Glacier Express, and you can watch it now on Nebula.
Nebula?
Nebula is the Streamy award-winning service that was created by and for educational video creators like me. On Nebula, you can watch all of my YouTube videos completely ad and sponsor free, and there's extra content like my Glacier Express video, as well as videos from over 150 other creators on topics like engineering and technology, history, media analysis, creative writing, and more. I legitimately enjoy Nebula, and I watch content on there almost every day.
That's cool.
You can sign up to Nebula directly, but it's actually cheaper to get it bundled for free with a subscription to CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream is a streaming service for professionally produced educational and documentary films. They have thousands of titles available on a wide range of topics. For example, I recently watched one of their documentaries about Engadin, a wilderness preserve in the Swiss Alps, which was really interesting.
That is.
If you sign up at curiositystream.com/notjustbikes or with the coupon code notjustbikes, you will get CuriosityStream and Nebula for only $14.79 for the whole first year of service, which is about as much as a ticket from Zurich to Basel if you don't have a travel card.
That's perfect
price. You can sign up using the link right here or in the description. I'd also like to thank my supporters on Patreon.
I like this, Not Just Bikes. Like I said, definitely happy that I was right about it being Switzerland. You know, didn't want to mess that up, but this was good. Transportation looked amazing. That app, from what I seen, it looked very understandable. Looked pretty straightforward, detailed. Definitely looked easy. And that would be me being a foreigner to that country and seeing how easy it would be for me to get around. You know, even if I was by myself, you know, I shouldn't get lost. You know, that's what Google Maps is for. But that was a very detailed app. This was a very detailed video. Definitely enjoyed looking at the beautiful mountains in Switzerland. I gotta check out some more videos about Switzerland. You know, might have to hit a geography now, but appreciate Not Just Bikes. This was great. This was great information. This was great scenery. And man, that transportation system, absolutely amazing. But guys, that's all I have for this video. Appreciate you guys for sending me this recommendation. Y'all hit that subscribe button. Y'all be blessed, be the best, and be you. I'm out.